Hi everyone, I'm Bea De Leon and I'm a professional volleyball player in the Premier Volleyball League back here in the Philippines.
Wong chasing. BDO wins the championship for Creamline.
A lot of people that may not know who you are won't understand that you are touted as one of the best middle blockers in your league. What do you think? What would you say is one of the biggest causes to the success you've had?
I think right now I would really credit that one to the environment that I have with my team. I think that's very crucial in any team sport where you're able to be in a very good environment to grow and to work hard. And the work ethic that everybody has really rubs off on me. And so I think that's a great part of my success. And of course, other than that, with the individual um, set of skills and determination and discipline that I really um, strive for. Obviously, you know that every day isn't the same, and every day you're gonna have to push yourself a different way, possibly. And so I think I really hang on to the discipline that any athlete must have to get to their goals.
So, if I heard you right, you were talking about the culture that you have with your team. Yes. Okay.
Yes,
So,
correct.
a little backstory. I have gotten roasted in the past for a question I asked somebody once. I asked them why Creamline is so popular, and people were very upset that I asked that question. But the people that weren't upset, a lot of them said it was because fans see how you guys are together, how you guys treat each other, how you seem to get along really well. So it sounds like they're on the right track then. If you somewhat confirmed that that culture is a big aspect of why you guys are as successful as you are.
Yeah, I think that's a really big aspect because I think at this level, when when you're doing it, the same thing every day, the fun and the joy of being with the people you're doing it with really would add on to that. When we train together, when we play games together, there's a bigger aspect to it. We're playing more than for ourselves, and that honestly feels a lot deeper, obviously. And winning just comes easier because digging deeper it comes naturally. If you get what I'm trying to say, also.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Follow up with that then. Again, it's no secret Creamline's very popular in the league, the most popular. Despite what anybody will tell me in the comments later, it's not really close. What does playing on a team that popular? What kind of pressures come with that?
Um, well, on my end, I think I had some time to get used to it because I also came from a popular college. And so I think handling that type of pressure wasn't very new to me coming into Creamline. Um, it's honestly fun for me, especially when in the games. Obviously, there's a huge crowd. The cheers are so loud. It's extremely fun for me. But obviously, it has it's trade offs. So obviously, a team being very popular would also have a lot of eyes on them. So a lot of criticism will come your way. But I think I've managed to be able to drown that noise out somehow, because well it gets hard obviously when you get to read these things. So I think on my end I just try not to mind it. I know they're there, but I try not to mind it because one way or another, whether you want it to or not, it'll probably affect you. And so I really just try and look at the brighter side to it, with again with the fans, with the cheers, with the support. It's so fun to play with that type of crowd.
Like I said before we started, part of this is to give people outside of the Philippines an understanding of the league and the volleyball culture that's in the Philippines.
Mhm.
And we've touched on it and kind of hinted around the fact, but to give everybody a better picture, when I was there, when Creamline would play, the arena's full. This isn't always the case. In
Yeah.
fact, there were other games where there weren't a lot of people in there. But if Creamline was playing, a few others, but for sure, if your team was playing, that arena is completely full. What do you see as the difference between Creamline bringing in an entire stadium full, and the other teams in the league?
Difference in what sense?
Well, you guys bring in a full crowd, and not everybody else does.
Well, yeah. I think well, the difference is, I mean, in that sense where we do bring a crowd. I think my experience is just, again, I just have so much fun with it. When you go in and the crowd screams and you score a point, and especially in the closer games that we have, which we've been having a lot lately, when it comes down the wire and you hear all of those cheers, the drums, the fans with synchronized cheers and synchronized moves sometimes, if you've seen
Yeah.
it actually. Um, it motivates you an insane amount. With just the fun that it brings and your love for the sport comes. I think any athlete with that type, given that type of environment, would have the best of fun. And part of being an athlete is really why we love doing it, because of the passion and the fun that it brings to you and of course the team. And those are just the days that you live for and that you dream of as a kid. All those bright lights and all the loud noise and the drums. And well, I think that just brings a different layer to my experience being a part of such a great team.
Reflecting back on this past year, all the conferences that happened in the last year, I guess, what would you say has been the hardest match that you can remember?
I think this last one that we had against Signal. So to give context, we had three conferences this year, and the goal obviously was to get it one by one, but we did manage to get that elusive Grand Slam. And the first game that we've had was against Choco Mucho, which went down 5 sets. I think the pressure there was insane. Choco Mucho is also one of the other more popular teams, so the arena was extra full. And there are times when we go on other teams, and because of that popularity, the cheers could be one sided, but this was really the fans going back and forth, and it was insane. We went down 5 sets, a best of three games. And that was pretty hard just because of the fatigue as well. Second championship was reinforced against Akari. The crowd was again a big part of that. But that went 3 sets, fortunately for us. Pressure wise, the hardest one was this last one in the Invitational where we went against Signal. I think it was just so hard for me personally, again, going down 5 sets and we were down bad, the sets that we lost. I think it was just really because we felt that Signal has read us so well in some of those parts, and adjustments were really so necessary for that game, and we didn't know exactly where to go. We had ideas of what adjustments we might have to make, but in a sense, they were big risks. But good thing again that they paid off. But the sheer difficulty of that game, just with also a reinforced player in MJ Perez, who scored 44 points, was insane. She would score from the back row to the front row, from drops to her serves. Her defense was impeccable. Um, and the addition of Don Makandili from the national team with that reputation of being basically Miss Everywhere, and she really was everywhere. So the frustration that would add up with those long rallies, not being able to kill the ball, it was a very very difficult game for us. So many adjustments had to be made, and um, yeah, I guess it just made everything extra special. That being the hardest and the last one we had to get that Grand Slam.
I want to go back to the Akari finals later, but first I want to ask you, out of the three main conferences that happen, right? And I hope I get these right, but you have the All Filipino, the Reinforced, and the Invitational. Yeah, is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of those brings a different element, a very different element.
Yes.
Which one is your favorite and why?
Hmm. I think for me, one of my favorite would be the All
Mhm.
Filipino. Um, because it had a very sentimental value to me because it was my first. I'm a new part of Creamline, and that being my first in the professional league was I think for anybody, your first would always be just so special and nothing more to it but that.
Which one do you think benefits Philippine volleyball in general more, when you bring in an import to kind of up the play, or a all Filipino conference that's focused on just Filipinos playing?
I think they bring very different elements, both very beneficial to the league. I think the reinforced obviously ups the level, especially in terms of defense. When we experience trying to defend, trying to block, these guest players were obviously so much taller than us, who have a very different skill set, very not well not very but very a lot better skill set than us. Their foundation is much better. They've been playing volleyball ever since. Some of us, just like me, learned volleyball to its core when I was in college, you know um, and having those reinforced players really ups the level for us. And again, it brings a different excitement to the Filipino fans, because when you defend those balls that are so hard and so heavy, it brings a different excitement, just because, like, wow, even to us, like, wow, we're able to do that, right? An all Filipino gets more exciting just because of the familiarity of the players. And of course, the level of play also increases from the reinforced. With the reinforced, a lot of teams also who didn't do so well in the all Filipino would have these reinforced players bring them a lot closer to the level of the top teams. And so the excitement is also different, because you have so many upsets. You have so many of these teams are making those runs of their own, and it's exciting to watch. Their last reinforced conference was honestly so exciting, and I guess with the all Filipino again, with the home crowd that you have, seeing all of those familiar players, the people that the Filipino fans would love to watch are all present. So it also brings a different layer to the game.
First of all, you're a very talented interviewee. So, because of that, I feel comfortable asking some other questions that I think are a little tougher. You mentioned upsets happening quite a bit. Um,
Mhm.
from the outside looking in, Bea, the only upsets that seem to never happen is Creamline losing. Um, it seems like you never lose, and it seems like there's never really there are chances, but it never seems to happen. So when I hear people say upsets happen, maybe in the middle, but it never does seem to happen at the top.
Well, we didn't really have the smoothest conference. The reinforced, we lost our first game to PLDT, and lost another elimination game to Petrogas. So I mean, I think for us, when we lose, which still obviously happens, we really just try to make it a point to come together again and make sure that we try our best and try to win when it matters. I think credit a lot of that part still to our coaches, who again, just in the last game, made such crucial adjustments. If you guys are aware, our guest player is an outside hitter, and she's been playing that for the last. I mean, she's always been an outside hitter when we got her from the United States and everything. And in here with us, when we were training, we were always playing her as an outside. We would play her in the right side for a couple of points, just because when the rotation would be that way, and it would be hard to switch. But our adjustment in the fourth set and the fifth set, where it was obviously the most crucial parts, was her playing in the opposite end. And those adjustments are the ones that exactly really helped us in winning this last game. Because I mean, if we didn't, I don't know what the result would be, and that's a huge risk for us. Taking out one of our ace players in Michelle Gumabao, and then having our reinforced player play somewhat a different position than what she usually plays. Huge, huge, huge adjustment, and I think all credit first goes to our coaching staff. So I think that's a big part in why we've had such a success. Other than that, I would really credit to the culture that our leaders have established.
Let's go back to the reinforced conference here. And So the finals of this and the semifinals were, at least from the outside looking in, riddled with a little bit of controversy. I don't need your opinion on the decision or anything like that, but I would like to know. I would like to know, as a player, how does that noise affect everybody? Is that something you just wish wasn't happening and you could just go out and play volleyball, or how does that? Yeah, how does that affect the people in those games and moving on to the next games?
Well, to me, I think if I were in their situation, I guess that's part of the question. And I was presented with such an environment, I would find it pretty tough, to be completely honest. I think everybody saw the environment we were in the reinforced finals, and again, the crowd was a big part of it. There were a lot of cheers, but at the same time, there were a lot of boos. And well, personally, I would find it hard to be playing in that environment, and the pressure just escalates for you. Like, there's a part of you that would want to say, like, I don't care. I don't want to care what your opinion is. I have to play for my team, and I have to deliver. But at the same time, at the back of your head, when all of these eyes are on you, wanting you to not do well, me personally might probably get to me. I would commend everybody else who would be stronger than that and would really be honestly say that it doesn't affect them.
Let's switch gears, shall we? Your collegiate career was at Ateneo, um,
Mhm.
very popular. And how can you explain, or how did your time there shape you for your professional career that was to come?
Well, I guess one that we discussed earlier is um, my that I got immersed very early in that scene of pressure from the outside factors of the sport, to, I think, me being in Ateneo and the things that it taught me, um, I think would really had shaped my ideas, my mindset, the way I think, the way I see the world. My experience in Ateneo being, well, at my time being under the guidance of people, of leaders such as Elisa Valdez, really gave me a sense of culture where the team would always come first, and giving your 100%. Every game, every practice was your bare minimum. All of these things of thinking of others, of making sure that a team isn't just a team because of your skills and your common skills. You have to look beyond skills and always look into the character of each person and how that character will in turn shape the culture and the character of the whole team. I learned there how to read that. I learned there how to somewhat foster a better environment for everybody, making sure that the team gels together and all of these things. I think that was a big, big part of what has shaped my mindset going into the professional career, where you switch teams. It's not, and you get to play with people with other cultures and other environments, coming from things that they've known differently, and coming into a team. I think those things are very important.
Can you walk me through this, your years at Ateneo, just like how it ended and that kind of thing? I am a little fuzzy on the timeline for UAAP success. So if you can walk me through those years, how they ended, that would give good context to the people listening.
I came into the UAAP in season 77. Um, the sport then was just starting to become popular. It was at its height, I think, for collegiate volleyball, because again, with everybody familiar, it was the emergence of Elisa Valdez, and in the context of the Philippines, where we had the La Salle Ateneo rivalry, and the La Salle Ateneo games were starting to become so popular because it was so close. Ateneo didn't always have the best volleyball program, and so catching up to the top teams, not just La Salle obviously, but to the top teams, where we would be able to give them five-setter games and exciting games, close games, long rallies. Um, that was the height of it. That's when I entered. We had a very successful campaign in season 77 where we went undefeated. That was my rookie year. I also had a very successful rookie year. And then going down the lines, my second year was Ateli's last year. We made it to the finals but didn't win. We lost against the Salle. My third year was a bit similar. I was by my third year, um, Gia, the very great setter that Gia is, was the one tasked to lead the team then. And we had we had quite a successful eliminations as well. The finals, we made it to the finals again against the Sal but lost. Our third year was my fourth year, sorry, was my least successful. Um, we had lost Gia, we had lost Atelay, and we were basically quite a different team in our core from the bigger successes of that team. Um, and we placed third, lost against FEU in the semifinals. They ended up going against LaSalle, and that was LaSalle's three-peat. My fifth year was my last year. We had changed coaches. It was it was me, Maddie Madayag, and Kat Tolentino. Kim Hekeliana tasked to lead the team. It was all our last years at that point. And obviously, our championship being the last one from season 77. We were very hungry that year. We had a successful campaign, but very nerve wracking still because we did not get to beat LaSalle at all in the eliminations. And obviously, we were thinking that they would go all the way to the finals, as they pretty much always do, given their stellar volleyball program. But UST managed to eliminate them. So we went against UST, who also had on the emotions and very big stakes as like us, who had players graduating. They had CC graduating that year, winning the MVP year. She had the most amazing UAAP career. Um, Down to the wire again. We beat them both elimination games, but come game one of the finals, which is best of three, they came at us and we seriously had no idea what to do, what adjustment to make, and they're just so good. Managed to make an adjustment and take the championship to game three, which we won. Um, so yeah, basically an ideal story for the end of my collegiate career. Well, that then there was that, basically I think that is the summary of my UAAP.
Sure, sure. So when you were there, to give context too, like you said, you were there peak volleyball UAAP, probably, yeah, as far
Yeah.
as popularity and everything that goes around with that. When you were there during that time frame, you're walking around campus or whatever, class to class. Is that the kind of thing where, for the most part, everybody knows who you are? Everybody knows who your teammates are, and they'll stop you and ask for pictures or want to say hi and stuff like that. Is that an accurate look at what it looked like when you were in college or not?
Um, when I was in campus, not much. I was thankful that the people would give me a lot of space, and I think um, more now when I come and visit. I think it's more now with the lower batches, but I think a lot of my classmates really thankfully just saw me as an ordinary classmate and wouldn't really stop me to ask for pictures. But I think it was more outside the campus that painted that much of a picture. Like when we would go to malls after the games, obviously. Um, I remember there was this time when we were entering Moa Arena and it was a Salle Ateneo game, and there were barriers everywhere, and the entrance was full. And from there, we already started hearing cheers. There was probably like 1,000 people there, and it was crazy. Like we were in the bus, and we were all just waiting just to get to the arena and all that, and then you'd hear from the outside drums right away
Oh,
and
jeez.
crowds cheering right away. It was crazy. All of these experiences, and it would even come to our point where in some arenas where smaller ones, when where barricades weren't as easy to put. Um, our van from the fans would literally like would shake from people wanting to ask for pictures and people trying to fight their way through. So honestly, it was slightly scary for them just because I
Sure.
assume it would be very dangerous. You know, one wrong move might have done something very bad, but thankfully, knock on wood, none of that has happened. But yeah, the to paint a picture of the intensity of the crowd, it would really come to those things.
So LaSalle was obviously a heel for you guys when you were in college. Um, you've been teammates with some of them since, whether it's the
Yeah.
national team or in the PVL. Before that was the case, how did you view the girls on LaSalle? Were they enemies? Did we have an issue with them, or were they your enemy?
No, honestly, actually, I grew up supporting LaSalle. Um, I trained with them for a whole summer. And so coming into my decision of colleges, LaSalle was actually the first one that came into mind just because, well, my whole family went to LaSalle. And again, I grew up um, supporting LaSalle. And so actually, it was the reverse for me. My dad was a huge basketball fan, and at the time, basketball was what was very popular here. So I grew up watching the UAAP games. So actually, in fact, I did not like Ateneo. So no, in that context, the LaSalle players were never like rivals in my head.
Sure.
I got to know them a bit for a few months when I trained them. I always had high respect for them. Again, Coach Ramil and the program that he's built there has garnered so much respect from the volleyball community with their success. And obviously on court, I didn't really see them as enemies or anything like that. But the intensity that those games would bring out a lot of emotions. But at the end of the day, my respect to that institution, to their players, is very big. And being their teammates was become a joy to me. Just sometimes reliving those moments would always be fun. And again, you know, the culture that they've had, what they've brought to the teams in the professional league is always seen in the players that have been from that program.
So obviously throughout college and into the PVL, you've developed your game quite a bit. What part would you say that you want to develop more right now? That it's your main focus you need to get better at?
I think my career hasn't been linear, and so I think at this point in my career, there's a number of things I have to get back at. Well, as an athlete, obviously you want to improve in everywhere. I still want to improve in my attacks. I think I could do better to increase in my contribution. It has to do a lot with my timing and my conditioning, and obviously my blocking has always been um, my weakest point as per my position, which shouldn't be the case because that should be our main job. So I think in those things, I do have to greatly improve still.
How do you avoid complacency with the success you've had and the growth you've had and being on a championship team, a multiple championship team? How do you avoid complacency in your training and your growth?
Well, for one thing, I think any athlete, regardless of how much you won, you still hate to lose.
True.
Right? So, you know, when you get there, when you get to the games, um, regardless of how you feel, regardless of how confident you are, and regardless of how you say, like, maybe you have feel complacent, like, I don't care, I have nothing to prove. I've never felt that, but you know, if that thought might come at the end of the day, you're really just like, I hate to lose for one thing. So one, you obviously just try your best to win, and two, I think I would give again that avoiding the complacency to the culture of the team. I'm again new, so the team has had 10 championships, and you know you would probably ask everybody that same question. And coming to the team, I see now why. why they've been having that much success. The culture of the team is such an integral part of it. Um, from training to the game, obviously there will be days when you don't feel your best, and days when honestly you might actually feel lazy because it is what you do every single day. And training can get very routinary and mundane, and it's the same thing every day. Um, but once you see your teammates who are feeling great, and once you see them playing their best, being competitive, making it fun, um, those little things in training that make it different and make it fun every day, where you compete with them, and these little banters that make it fun. I think that's a big part of why Creamline has had such success. There is no complacency at all. We're really just as good as our last game. We're really just as good as what we've accomplished last, and going into the next one, to the next championship, into the next goal, is it maintains the same hunger. Especially now, I think that um, with the story of these conferences, the amazing part of it is from the first championship, we've had a different set of players play the second championship in these three things. So I think it's just again a testament to us making sure that everybody does their best in training, that everybody from the first six to the second six would have the same mentality and harbor the same set of skills, the same set of of greatness, if I may use the word, to succeed in all of that.
So if you walked into practice for the day and you're feeling down, tired, whatever it is, who on the team is most likely to change that mood of yours almost instantly?
Atilay, obviously, as captain, she does not like seeing you um, be lazy. The small things in training, she really notices. The small, we call them, the small balls, the easy balls are things that she will not let pass if you make mistakes in these things, collectively, individually. Um, one word and you're like, oh, you better wake up. Just because, one, of course, out of the sheer respect that you have for her, and two, because she's the same way every day. And when you look at your teammates, you look at them, you look at your side, and you see that they're trying to give their best despite you feeling down. So obviously, your 100% is different every day. So my goal is just to reach that 100% that I have for that day. And when I see, honestly, at Eli, at MG, who are always so who always have so much, at MG always has so much energy. Honestly, Adelai will be the one to discipline you and to tell you, to kind of tell you off, not in a bad way. Everybody needs that. At MG will give you that energy, that happiness, that fun in training. And everybody else from Gemma, who you would see, Gemma Galanza, who you'd see in every training, would make these fantastic shots. So it gets by the mid training, you're probably just like, yep, okay, yeah, I'm okay. I'm gonna give my best because all of these people around me are spiking so hard, not letting any ball down. Probably because from everything, one wanting to do your best, two being competitive, even with each other. So yeah, I think those people have helped me a lot when it comes to giving my best in every day.
You talked before, and we mentioned it, how Creamline is a family, a very strong one, you've said. How do you guys kind of deal with or feel when a member of that family goes somewhere else, whether it's Gia going to play in Korea, I believe, or
Japan.
said Domingo going to Akari? How does that affect that family culture that you guys have?
Um, well, personally, I was not there when they left. I wasn't
Oh,
part of
right.
the team yet.
Yeah.
But right now, just putting myself in that situation, if somebody does leave, it would be very sad. But in cases like theirs, where they believe that there's a better opportunity for them, I think at the end of the day, we'd support them and we'd understand. Obviously, um, despite how close knit we are, we also have individual goals. And if that decision will lead to them reaching those goals, then, you know, it's going to be so sad. Like, honestly, really, really sad. I mean, just having Erica, our reinforced player, our guest player, obviously we already knew that she wasn't gonna stay the whole year. We weren't gonna have her for the whole year. But um, when it sank in that she was gonna leave, and we don't know what's next, you know, if she comes back or not. Hopefully she does. But her just not being able to be with the team anymore, coming to the next conferences, we were already like crying. And so, I mean, can you only imagine if it were for somebody you've been with the whole year, and you know those stuff. So I think it's gonna be really just sad. But at the end of the day, we'll support each other.
All right. We just interviewed Marina Tashova a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, she's so good.
Oh yeah, I know. So there's something we did with her that was fine. We've done this in the past. I'm just gonna read you something. I just want the first person that comes to mind. All right?
Mhm.
That works?
Yeah.
All right. So the first one I got is who was the toughest team that you faced in college? What year?
In college, La Salle, I think, obviously. What year? My fifth. We didn't beat them. So
Yeah.
obviously it was super tough. Yeah.
Who was the toughest player you played in college?
I would say Jaja Santiago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
we were in the same position, and obviously she's so much bigger than me.
who do you think is the most underrated player in the PVL right now?
Obviously, I would look at my team, and I think Kyla Atienza was one of the more unsung heroes in that run. Well, for a long time.
Who do you think? What young player can you not wait to see develop and grow as the league continues on?
Right now, I think Angel Canino. I'm very excited for her future, and the way she. Well, I like it when I see her passion and all that. I'm excited for her.
And then finally, who would you say the best player in the league is right now?
Bernadette Pons, come on, MVP.
Again, we touched on the dynamic of Creamline quite a bit, but what would you say there's something about the Creamline dynamic that the fans and the people on the outside don't know about?
I'm not too sure what else they might not know. I think we've always, as a team, highlighted again the culture that we have. Um, so yeah, I'm not too sure
That
actually
could
what.
easily be the case because it does seem like you guys are quite an open book as far as
Yes.
the
Yeah.
culture that you have with your team. So that could easily be the right answer, is that there really isn't anything that they don't necessarily know
Yeah.
about what we do. Um, you obviously are a role model to a lot of young volleyball players right now. What one piece of advice would you give to them?
Mm, I think to them, to any athlete in general, also, hone your discipline. I think is a very crucial part of succeeding in anything. Discipline is on the court, off the court, the things you do to make sure your skills work out, the discipline of your mind into controlling what you can and cannot. I think that's something that everyone would have to develop and well hold on to when things get tough. Honestly,
Um, how would you describe, compare and contrast the fans that you experienced in that fandom and the environment that you experienced in Ateneo with what you experience now in Creamline?
actually, I think they're very the same. The fans of Ateneo started again because of Atelay, and has carried over here. Who she's now my teammate. So a lot of them are the same. Actually, a lot of them I've known for quite a while. A lot of them are very familiar faces. For me, from Ateneo now to Creamline.
So many people that I've ever talked to, when I talk about the fans in the Philippines, point to Elisa Valdez as one of the main reasons behind that. Is there any concern? Maybe you have never thought about it, but when she eventually walks away, that might affect the following that volleyball has?
Sorry, if she eventually what?
Whenever she eventually walks away, moves on, whatever she does,
Hmm.
is there any sort of concern that will affect the fandom that PVL and UAAP have?
Well, I think so. I mean, we have yet to see a world of volleyball without her. That was actually our main concern. To put the backstory, funny that you say that because when I was in first year, again, it was her peak and the volleyball world getting known majority because of her, a big part because of her. When we really said that, oh, once he graduates, we probably have nobody watching anymore. Um, and I wonder if we're gonna have the same fans. And thankfully, it has sustained itself in the UAAP without her. But I think in general in the volleyball scene, I think it will still suffer a blow without her. But part of her legacy, I think, was being able to put the spotlight. Because of her, the spotlight was put on so many other more people and showcasing the talents of these people. And so I do hope it sustains. Honestly, again, I mentioned I think it'll still suffer a blow without Elisa Valdez. Um, but hopefully, with again the how it's being televised now and being covered by the media, I hope it does sustain. And um, we do have exciting careers up our sleeves with Angel Canino, Bella Belen, Solomon, all of these people who have now showed such great prowess in just their UAAP career. I think hopefully will carry over down to both the UAAP, the coming generation, and their time next in the pros.
Yeah, when I was there last year, I think I got a chance to interview all the NU girls, so I got a little bit of a taste of that fandom, and obviously their level was amazing coming off their championship. So um, obviously, I would agree. I think there's hope from this UAAP group
I
coming in.
think there's a lot of hope. Yeah.
Let's finish up here with this angle, and when you're talking about the sustainability of fandom for Philippine volleyball, another massive element of that is the national team. Uh,
Mm.
Now, historically, the national team hasn't done very well. For a country that has such a large fandom and support system for volleyball, where do you think that disconnect was?
Mm,
Or was it not a disconnect and it was just a matter of stepping outside of the Philippines? It's obviously, no pun intended, a totally different world out there.
um, I think anything that is new would suffer these same things. Despite the growing support and the very solid support now of volleyball in the context of us having this success in the country, it's still very short, very new in the context of everybody else. With Thailand, it's been there for many years. I guess we'll just try to look at our Asian countries, right? Our
Sure,
neighboring
sure.
countries. With Thailand, it's been there for so many years, same as Japan. Um, Obviously, like bigger names such as China who've already been to the Olympics, they've had it for years. Their sports programs have been established for a great number of years. Even all the way up to the Olympics, they haven't just supported certain sports. They've supported everybody, which I think has benefited them because the foundation for everybody has carried over. With us, it's fairly young. Um, we took it a step at a time, obviously, because part and parcel because maybe the government hasn't had, as a third world country, we don't always have the luxury of supporting everybody as ideally we could, as best that we could, right? And I think again, it's a very young landscape for us. The grassroots program is still establishing itself. So obviously, with that big of a thing that you want to achieve, there's also a lot of things that you have to go through. The organizations that will have to establish themselves, um, to make sure that all of these things have levels and have layers and have steps to it. I think again, it's still all very young, and the scene to us is very new, trying to reach the world stage. Um, so yeah, I think in just that context, part of why we haven't been able to succeed just yet, a big part of that is really just the foundation of it all still hasn't been established through these years. The landscape of volleyball here is consistently changing. Our best players, I can't blame them right now for going out of the country, like Jaja in her case, trying to play for Japan. Obviously, I can't blame her. So we're still navigating through these things of building the team, building the best players. Are these best players gonna stay? Are we gonna have them long term? How are we gonna establish practice when we have pro teams? How are we gonna balance these things? It's very tough, very very tough. Making sure that everybody is happy also, and so that everything is running smoothly. So I think that's a big part of of why. But it's always very hopeful. At least the support from the fellow Filipinos is there. The support from organizations is growing, and I think hopefully in a couple of years we're at least able to establish consistency um, in what we're trying to do with the national team.
All right, I want to push back on one thing you said. Like I said, you're a great interviewee, so I feel like I can. Um, you mentioned kind of the more push from different organizations to help grow that to potentially see success. There's been pushback, especially from the last couple of Olympics, that the Philippines already has success in other sports and other events that they kind of feel are being ignored in the place of sports like basketball and volleyball, putting in resources and time into these versus some sports where we actually have successful people coming from the
Yeah,
Philippines in
correct.
weightlifting and gymnastics.
And in gymnastics, yeah. Well, my thoughts on that, I think, I can't blame where they're coming from, first and foremost. I see the side to it. I understand where that opinion is coming from. Um, but for me, ideally, if we're able to support everybody, why not? I would still push for big support on these things, gymnastics, especially I think them being individual sports. Um, genetically, as Filipinos, we're already very what's the word in English? In Tagalog, I would say dehado, but we're not at par with everybody else. I guess us being shorter, us being all of that in the context of basketball, in the context of volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in individual sports, we've had a good number of success, partly because of that, because we're at least able to catch up in those little things as compared to a team sport where you're going against
Sure.
seven people where you're at a disadvantage. Um, Partly because of that, and partly because I think again it's a lot easier to support one person than a whole team that requires 20 people, right? So I would still push honestly for these individual sports and individual success first in the context of the Philippines being in the world stage. I totally support that. But ideally, hopefully, we're also able to get these sports like volleyball and basketball to have the same support as them. I would hope that at some point it would all be equal. Ideally, it would all be equal in the even in the attention that it gets from us, from our fellow Filipinos, because I love watching gymnastics and I love that whole Olympic stint that we just had. It was very exciting, and I would, as an athlete, I would just love for all of us to receive that same success and the same support, and just really succeed in a higher stage. I would hope for all of that for us, and especially for these people who, like, again, these athletes getting to do what we love to do, to support our families, to support our career, to support ourselves. I really wish that it comes to light for all of us.
All right, I have one more question for you. When we were talking to Marina, obviously she loved being there, and
Yeah.
she talked a lot about why she loved being there so much. If a potential import is listening to this, what would you tell her about why she needs to come play in the Philippines?
Well, I think part in why they love playing here is one, the obvious welcoming that they receive both from us, the team, and the fans, the support that they get. Two, eh, we've established that the Philippines has one of the best crowds in terms of volleyball and the worldwide support of it. And I've always heard these foreign players coming here and just loving that atmosphere. Volleyball in the world stage isn't as big as football or
Mhm.
basketball, and them coming here and having that full of an arena. One of the things I think we've always told them is they would love it. They would love playing in that atmosphere, and I think the sheer us just sharing the same passion and the same love for the sport, them being part of helping growing that sport, making sure that these people who love the sport so much um, see a different level to it and experience a different level because of them. I think that would really be a good pull for them to come here.
Anything you think Filipino fans or fans around the world need to know that we haven't talked about?
Mm, not much, I think. I
No,
think
I
we've
think we
covered
covered
it.
we covered a lot.
Yeah,
We covered a lot.
yeah.